Hi, welcome to the Mohua Show. My name is Mohua Chinappa and I am an author, entrepreneur, and ex-housewife. This podcast is about everything from business to technology to arts to lifestyle, but done and spoken ईमानदारी से. Hi, in today's episode, we have Tushar Kapoor. Tushar Kapoor is an Indian film actor and producer. He also has a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Michigan and has worked as a financial analyst. For many of our listeners, we don't know about that. We know about Tushar's acting journey, which began in 2001 with the hit film Mujhe Kuch Kehna Hai. Since then, he's appeared in hits like Khaki, The Dirty Picture, Shootout at Lokhandwala, and Shore in the City, among others. His impeccable comic timing as a mute character in the blockbuster comic film Golmaal made him a household name and a favorite among kids and families. Tushar is also the son of the veteran actor Jitendra. And now, in today's episode, we are going to talk about his first book, The Bachelor Dad. Welcome, Tushar, in today's episode. Tushar, this is your first book, The Bachelor Dad. You wrote this book during lockdown. Why did you feel the need to write this book? Because through this book, the more I was sitting down and reading, I found a very down to earth person, unlike what we, as people around would imagine. So, what was the journey? It must have been very overwhelming for you to be a single father. What was the first night like with Laksh?
Once he came into my life, I think all the feelings of, uh, being pressured by, this whole new phase of my life beginning and the feeling of being overwhelmed, all that just evaporated because I just got onto the job and I just loved it. And I think I was cut out to do it at that point of time in my life. I was, of course, nervous. I was a bit apprehensive before, he actually came into my arms, whether I was, I was clear and I was confident, but I was, of course, anticipating, you know, as all humans do, lots of things that come with changes. And the fact that this was going to be a huge change in my life, I was a bit apprehensive. How will my life now change? What will my life change into now? How will I, will I be able to do things that did earlier? What is it going to be like? And just like the fear of the unknown. But then once he came into my arms, I was quite uh, clued in, and it just a new phase of happiness, peace, and fulfillment began. As far as the book is concerned, I would call it like my second child. So just like my first child, my son, even when I decided to write a book, the fact that I had made up my mind and I was going to and had actually signed up with Penguin, one of the biggest publishers, was exciting. But again, I felt a bit apprehensive as to whether I'll be able to do it and how much work will it require. Will I get the time? And yes, I wasn't really keen on doing it initially, but my friends encouraged me. And by the time I spoke to a lot of people, by the end of 2019, I had made up my mind that I want to write a book. And mystically, I got an offer at the same time. So it all worked out in that sense as far as the timing is concerned. But yeah, getting to really write it was a bit difficult to start with. And then I got used to that also, just like how I got used to being a single father. I got used to doing that also single handedly because I wrote the book myself, in fact. So I think it's my Buddhist practice also that has come very, very handy in this whole thing. That has given me the wisdom, has given me the strength and the enlightenment to write this book on my own single-handedly. Though I might be sounding boastful right now, but it would be important to state it. But yeah, the lockdown was just like a coincidence. It was not something that I planned. I didn't plan to write a book because there was a lockdown. The lockdown just happened, and then again it worked out in a way because I got stuff to write about in the book which pertain to the lockdown, and that was the last two chapters. So I think it's all. I think there are things that we do in our lives which are new for us, which we don't really plan very, very far back in time, but they kind of unfold in a way as if it was destined for us to happen. So my son is one of those things, and my second child is this book. That's how I'd like to describe it.
So, Tushar, I mean, I completely relate to you because I also got down to writing my first debut book during lockdown. Having career in advertising and then giving it all up. And my son went off to London to study. So I completely understand about, being an author and putting things together because, you feel the minute you put your experiences out there, on the paper, on your iPad, that I used to write on. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about the emotions and things that was like a recollection that would have entered your mind all at once, and other times when you experienced a complete dearth of thoughts. How did you deal with that? So walk our listeners, through your journey of writing. I'm sure you must have been nervous. A lot of people today are opting for different sort of families, so there are single fathers, there are single mothers, and they don't want to go through the entire rigmarole of of marriage, and but they want to become parents, right? So tell us about those nervous moments when you were putting the book together.
Yeah, so I think what was a challenge initially was planning the book, in the sense that how am I going to plan my time? So because I was a bit overwhelmed, I made up my mind that I'm going to write for an hour or two every other day, so that I don't really feel like I'm bogged down by it. So that was a good thing to do to begin with, because I had a day off from writing. Even though I was enjoying it, I didn't want to feel like I'm doing something, something terribly new and too much pressure, and I'm like being forced to do something by my own decision. So I wanted to feel free, so I said I'll do it every other day. And gradually I started liking it, so I increased the frequency. I then started writing. My first chapter took a month, which is a long time. And then thereafter I started writing every night. I allocated 2 hours or 1 hour at the end of the day, so I don't feel like the book is coming in the way of my day's work. And in fact, we weren't going out at that time, but we were at home and we were doing so many things. I was working from home, I was parenting from home, I was working out at home. So it was a very, very busy time. So I allocated the night time for my book, which made it feel a little less cumbersome initially. And as I got more and more used to it, I started increasing the frequency. And by the time 8, 10 months were over, I was writing whenever I was free. So I was like now wanting to finish this book, and I was enjoying it. And I also followed a step by step procedure. Like, I used to make notes first, so that I can really pen down my thoughts and collect my thoughts. And then after that, I used to formulate and structure all the notes that I made, all my thoughts in the correct manner, in a sense, like kind of edited it to really make it like a proper copy. And thereafter, I used to check it again, read it again, and go stage by stage. So I used to like pen my thoughts first, and then I used to rewrite it. And you won't believe it, but I really never had a dearth of thoughts. I don't know what that is. Magic. That's pure God's hand at play. But I think I can confidently say that I always had the right sequence of events in my mind about a particular chapter of my life, as far as my single fatherhood is concerned. Somehow I think it was God's hand, as I said earlier, also, because everything just came. And I think the biggest fear I had was that I should not miss out on anything in this book, because it's so personal an account, and I'm writing it myself, so it shouldn't be like, okay, I missed out on some important points. But I think, again, my Buddhist practice must have given me some sort of a wisdom and some sort of clarity, because I used to chant a lot, and that really fueled my thinking while I was writing the book, and everything just came. I think that's the magic of writing. When you start writing, you're you're in another world altogether, and it's like another realm of creativity, which, if fueled correctly, if inspired correctly, it can really make you write things that you seem to have forgotten about, and that came back to you when you started writing it. I think that's what happened to me. There are things I must have forgotten about, and I would have probably never remembered, but while I was writing them, I was like, "Oh my God, this is so important! This is so important." So that's just magic. I can't really answer this question without saying that part was just magic. But yeah, the structuring, and then I realized that I have to put it on a Word document, writing it on a Word document. Those were things that I had really planned to make it look to make myself feel like I'm enjoying it and not feeling very, very burdened by it. And that really helped me go with the flow. So the structuring of the book, as far as how frequently I wrote it initially, and then gradually increasing the frequency of writing it, planning my time, and then writing it all in a Word document before I sent it to Penguin. All that was probably something that I planned. But as far as the fact that you can't really plan is the magic of thoughts appearing in your mind, which you have probably already forgotten, and you never think that they would come back to you, but they came back to me at the right time when I was writing the book, and they pertained to the material that was, being dealt with in the particular chapter. So it was all mystically happening in front of me, and I think that's the beauty of writing. That there are things that keep coming back to you, which you probably buried somewhere in your at the back of your mind, and you never really thought that they would come back to you, but they came back to you at the right time while you were writing, while you felt inspired, while you were motivated about dealing about penning your thoughts pertaining to a certain chapter of your life. And that happened with me also. So that's just magical. I can't really answer it as to what was it that really came into play when I was trying to recollect on my thoughts. There was just pure magic. And I don't think I missed out on any real important details, which is what the beauty about writing this book was all about.
So, Tushar, you know what? I was sitting down in the cafe and I really, was smiling when I was reading about how you got angry when your entire room was turned upside down, for Vastu, hoping that, your mother wanted you to get married. You also went and met a girl, but you were very sure that there would be no connect at all, okay? So, while I was reading, there was a very strong tone that said you're very sure that marriage is not meant for you, but fatherhood is. So, how did this entire take on marriage and this entire notion of being a single father cemented for you? What were incidents or things that made you believe that you are not fit for being married or wanting to get married?
Well, I'm no one to really, know it all beforehand that, I'm maybe not marriage material, or maybe that's not the eventual, the most appropriate outcome for me in my life as far as family life is concerned. I was never really that sure. I was giving it, um, I was taking it casually, as I've written in the book also, and I was going with the flow. And just like my career somehow, took several twists and turns and really found its true calling. I thought marriage or my family beginning would also be happening in that manner. Something good would happen, some clarity would happen. But then by the time I was in my mid 30s, as I've written in the book, I think I started realizing that I can't wait longer to be, I have to plan something for my family life. I can't wait longer for destiny to really come into play, and, I'll find the right match or the right life partner. I can't really procrastinate so much. I need to do something because my parents are growing old. I'm growing older. I'm in my mid 30s, late 30s, going to be in my late 30s. And you have to be energetic for your child. So I think that's when I started actively thinking about maybe single parenthood is the right option for me, because I was talk. Some people really enlightened me about it. And they also said that, there are fertility centers in the US where you can actually start a family of your own, biological become a biological father to someone without really getting married, and it's legal, etc. So I was just thinking of those lines. I was scared to really do something so uh, radically different to what we expect us to do in a society in India, in Indian society especially. So those thoughts were scary, but so I had not really made up my mind there also. And then gradually how it unfolded as far as my taking that decision and taking that big step is concerned, that is about that's something that you'll have to read in the book, because I can't, then the whole, the fun of really reading would not be there. But yeah, I did go with the flow initially, and I was just like taking life as it comes, and then I decided to think more actively. And then gradually I think you kind of manifest what you really ought to be doing. I believe in that, when you haven't really made up your mind, but somewhere deep down you know that you've got to be going in certain directions, it all starts manifesting itself on its own. I think we create our environment, which is what happened with me also. So there was no real. I won't be able to say that. Okay, I realized that marriage is not my cup of tea, and I was sure. I don't think that confidence really ever came, and I haven't really spoken about it in that manner too in the book. That I realized that I know that I'm not married. I always said that marriage is possibly an option. Never say never, and it's a great institution. I believe in it because it's worked for millions and billions of people. But maybe, I've always said maybe that's not what I was cut out to do. And which is why I saw myself trying to I saw myself trying out different things, at least trying to think about different things, and then something really drastically different worked out for me.
So it's really enormous, I mean, talking to you, it's enormous the decision that you took. I mean, there must have been instances that, where you might have to take decisions, about little things that happen around you being a father. So, any one incident that you would like to share, because there'll be a lot of single fathers would be interested in hearing how is it, sometimes when a child doesn't find a sock, they generally go to the mother, okay? And here is a father who's a sole caretaker. So, I'm sure in school when you have gone and you've gone in for parent teacher meetings and because it's always the number of single women more versus men who are opting for parenthood. But of course, things are changing now in the traditional concept of a perfect family. Narrate to us any incident that you think any of our listeners would really benefit as to how you went into those nitty gritties, because you were also raised, with a mother and a father in, the way the society would view as a regular family life. So, some fun instances or incidents with Laksh, we would love our listeners to know.
Well, in fact, today itself was his graduation from the early years of his school, and just came back from his ceremony, which is why I scheduled our podcast for 11:30, because I just came back home at 11. Scheduled for 11 because I came back home at 10:30 a.m. Sorry. Yeah. So what's interesting is that I've just done it myself. I've been to every parent teacher meeting. I've been to every graduation ceremony. I've done all lots of pickups and drops, and I can confidently say that he hasn't indicated to me yet uh, any kind of feeling of confusion, or even wonder, or any kind of doubt, or any kind of incompleteness in that regard, which is something that I can really positively and confidently say. Maybe it's just because I've been there from the very beginning, and he understands and he knows that there are all kinds of families. I've read books to him, and uh, if you feel complete, you feel complete. What your family appears to be is not really that important according to me. I think how you feel inside, how you feel, nurtured you feel, how much how much of a sense of belonging do you have to a certain family, how wanted you feel, how unconditionally loved you feel. I think that is what makes you feel complete, and that's what a complete family should be about. The confidence, the security, and the acceptance that children carry within themselves, that is more important than you know so and so's parents come and my dad comes. I don't think he hasn't gotten into that zone yet. I mean, it might sound surprising, but maybe because I've had conversations with him which are age appropriate about the different structure of families and the different kinds of families. And yeah, we'll brave every storm if there is any also.
How wonderful.
If there is something that comes up in future and he needs to be spoken to, I will deal with it like all parents do when the children come home with certain questions. That's something that I'm not going to say is going to be an exception to the rule. It's going to be like it is for every family. So I'm normalizing my family because I feel normal, and I know that my son feels normal.
So, what are your views on the Surrogacy Regulation Bill 2020, which denies the opportunity of parenthood to LGBTQ plus people, live-in couples, and single parents? Would you like to share some thoughts there?
I'm sure there are reasons for the bill, and I'm sure you know at the from the outside it might seem like it's unfair, and everybody deserves an equal chance, etc., and I'm all for equality. But I'm sure that the regulators must be having to deal with a huge socioeconomic demographic in a country that is so vast, so diverse, and there may be so many all kinds of incidents that happen with regards to parenting, and when there is unusual parenting like mine, and which is kind of which is against the norm. I'm not saying it's not normal, but sometimes when it's against the norm, and when surrogacy comes into play there, I think the rights of individuals come into play, and that is something that I can't really answer, because uh, legalities go into so much more depth. They understand so much more about what has happened in the past, and there are so many precedents that must have really led them to decide to do what they did. So that is something that just I would like someone, maybe from the authorities, to really answer this question, because we're just regular citizens, and so we don't really know what's going on in the country as far as that is concerned. And the regulators do, so I'm sure they know best. But I hope and pray that everyone who genuinely wants to become a parent, no matter how he or she wants to become a parent, should have the right to do so. And I hope that works out for everyone.
So, for all our listeners, with this answer, we of course know that Tushar is, of course, very politically correct. And of course, being a financial analyst, having now been an actor and a producer, and as an author now, his book, Bachelor Dad, really delves deep into him as a person, the humility with which he's written. And of course, I'm a huge fan, Tushar. So, as a single dad, it must be overwhelming thinking about how you'll raise your kids. After all, but there is a saying that says it takes an entire village to raise a child. So, how can one single man do it alone? So, please listen to this podcast with Tushar, and you will know how brave one can be when one wishes something deep from within their heart. Thank you, Tushar, for being on today's episode. And I really hope that I can send you my book, and I hope you enjoy reading that. And thank you once again.
Thank you, Mohua. Thank you. Lovely talking to you.
Lovely talking to you, and all the best, and lots of love to Laksh.
Thank you.
To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services: Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course on all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are The Mohua Show, where we talk ईमानदारी से.